at what really happened.
So Keir Starmer appeared on Loose Women earlier today, where he took aim at President Trump. Just have a listen to this. Sometimes I do feel really sorry for Keir Starmer when he has to talk about President Trump, because he is trying to be diplomatic. He's saying, I would call it out. You probably wouldn't. But then tries to backtrack and say, well, sometimes teenage boys, maybe like Trump, didn't really know what he was saying. Come on, take a position, have a backbone, and tell us what you really think.
Yes, no wonder his approval ratings are as low as they are after performances like that. So,
oh, that was quite a good one, to be fair.
Well, true. It's a low bar, though.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, we're grading on a scale.
It is. Yeah. And that was a discussion that they were referencing there. There was a trip on Air Force One for people who haven't seen it. And during that flight, which President Trump was probably tired and slightly at the end of his tether, and it was the press gaggle. Now, when you're on Air Force One, there's 13 members of the press, very, very few journalists. You've got photographers and camera men and women, etc. And it is a bun fight. And he shouted at somebody, and we don't know the context, but he said, "Quiet, piggy," and he pointed. And everybody assumed that that was some reference to what this woman looked like. I don't know, but I am suspecting from the interactions that I've had in those environments, what he meant was, you're being greedy with your questions. You've got your nose in the trough. You are hogging the conversation. That's what I thought he meant, because you have to be courteous to the other journalists. You have time. He'll give you half an hour on the aeroplane.
Sure.
But if somebody's constantly asking a question, you've got to step back. You've got to let everybody else do. I wonder whether that's what he was getting at.
I think you're right, Bev, because he would probably use a much more aggressive word if he was really trying to offend her or insult her. And I think, the president's very candid. He sometimes says what people are thinking. It's refreshing sometimes, and it gets him in trouble at other times. But, the voters, the Americans, and I imagine it's the same in the UK, we care about how much fentanyl's coming into the country. We care about food prices, and we care about biological men playing in women's sports, right? So, what he calls a reporter on an airplane is just not that relevant.
Absolutely. Colin, let me tell you what that discussion was actually about. In the UK, teachers are now going to be tasked with making sure that boys aren't misogynistic to girls. I have so many problems with this particular initiative. The problem exists, of course. Boys are horrible to girls. We know that there is a bizarre practice of what's known as choking in sex is considered normal, because you've got a pornography generation. There has been some statistics on that recently of how many young girls think that is normal, and boys. Something has to be done. But how do you feel when you see the Prime Minister on a daytime show talking about an initiative to force boys to be kind to girls?
He just looked like someone totally out of his depth, someone totally detached from the concerns of his constituents, and someone who's not in touch with the people who he's trying to represent. And frankly, Donald Trump was elected in many ways as the antidote to a lot of the things that people thought was just asunder. And he was viewed as someone who was going to upend the status quo, and someone who was going to change the way things were done. And Keir Starmer, he just doesn't have any sort of mandate. He doesn't have any sort of vision. And there's a reason that people view him the way they do.
Yeah.
Keir Starmer's appearance on daytime television was supposed to be an easy win. Soft emailed journalist. The now widely discussed quiet piggy comment. He was asked a simple and direct question. Would he allow someone to speak to his daughter, his wife, or his colleagues in that way? This should have been straightforward, a clear answer. Either that kind of language is unacceptable, or it is not something he supports. Instead, viewers got the familiar Keir Starmer response. Careful, winding, heavily cushioned language designed to offend no one and please everyone. And that is exactly where the problem lies. This was not a diplomatic summit. It was not a sensitive international negotiation. It was a daytime television interview. Yet even in that relaxed setting, Starmer could not take a firm position. He said he would challenge such language, but immediately diluted the point by shifting the discussion toward teenage behaviour, online influences, and broad social trends. The end result was a response that sounded less like leadership and more like avoidance. People watching from their living rooms are not looking for legal explanations or technical detail. They want clarity. They want instinct. They want to understand what their Prime Minister actually believes. And this is where Starmer repeatedly struggles. The panel discussion that followed did nothing to improve the impression. Rather than projecting confidence or authority, Starmer appeared uncomfortable, almost apologetic, as if his priority was avoiding the wrong answer instead of delivering the right one. That is not strength, that is risk management. and voters notice it. This moment fits neatly into the reason his approval ratings fail to gain real momentum. It is not that people do not understand his policies, it is that they do not feel them. Leadership is not only about ideas on paper, it is about presence, tone, and conviction. Compare this with figures who divide opinion but project certainty. Whether people like Donald Trump or not, they know exactly where he stands. Agree with him or disagree with him, he does not hesitate. Starmer, by contrast, often comes across as someone trapped between caution and conviction. Daytime television exposed that contrast perfectly. The timing of this appearance made it even worse. Britain is facing rising crime, economic pressure, cultural tension, and widespread political exhaustion. People are not searching for polished ambiguity. They are looking for plain speech and decisive leadership. Instead, they saw a prime minister who seemed distant from public frustration, more comfortable explaining systems than confronting uncomfortable realities. This moment was not just about misogyny. It was not just about Donald Trump. It was about whether Keir Starmer can lead with instinct instead of instruction manuals. For many watching, the answer was unsettling. Daytime television removed the safety net. No briefing notes, no carefully stage-managed press conference. Just Keir Starmer, exposed. And what voters saw was not outrage, not authority, and not leadership. They saw hesitation. And more than any single comment, that hesitation remains his greatest weakness.